today I'm looking at like this idea that music and albums and these like pieces should not be isolated experiences, and they should be viewed in context with your own life, the situation that piece was made in, and just if you factor in all these other variables, I feel like it can lead to a much more enjoyable and intimate experience with the music, and I think it's really important. What made me think of this was I was listening to Geese's 3D Country for the first time, maybe 2 weeks ago, and my boyfriend called me in the middle of the album, and like, oh my god, it's so annoying, it interrupted me listening to the album, but like, no, it almost makes it better, because now I have that memory attached to the album, and it makes it more special to me. So I kind of have like two sections for this video, where it's like the personal context of like your own life with that piece of music, and then also like the artist's context to that piece of music. What conditions was this made in? Why was this piece made? All this stuff, and kind of the background of the music, I feel like can add a lot of value to your own experience. I'm going to be back. I'm going to go put my dog inside. She's running off. Get back here. Hey, get out of there. If anyone drives by in a boat while I'm doing this, that'd be really embarrassing. First, I'm going to talk about like the first half of this, of like the artist's context of the album enhancing the album. And this whole idea of separating the art from the artist, I think it's so fucking stupid. Where like it honestly disadvantages you as a listener, and also I understand it's mostly used for like when an artist is a bad person, but I feel like that's still important to the piece itself, especially with new Kanye music. Like, he's like making like weird Jewish jokes in his new stuff, and you can't just be like separate the art from the artist, because the context of him being anti-Semitic and saying like, oh, Hitler is like the GOAT, you know, that's like is important to when he's saying this shit in his music, and you've got to take that into consideration as a listener, and I just think it's ridiculous. Like, an example I have here is Lil Mabu. Like, we all know Lil Mabu is, you know, he's not from the streets, he's quite wealthy, but he raps about being, like, a gang member and all this shit, but that context that he isn't is important, and people take that into account, and you can't just unconditionally, like, no one truly separates the art from the artist, because it's done so, like, nitpicky, and there's no actual standard, and they're just doing it to like be like, oh, I'm supporting this artist who's like a shitty person, but this is my argument. And I just think it's such a straw man, and if you were to apply that to everything, it would severely stagger how you enjoy music, and I just think it's dumb. The next point I have is that like the context, as kind of explaining with like Kanye, where like he's anti-Semitic, he has weird Jewish bars in his new stuff, like the context shines through, like where you'll see, like even with the intention of the piece, like you'll see with some of Drake's earlier mixtapes, like If You're Reading This It's Too Late, or his mixtape with Future, like you can see he's doing that because he likes rapping and he's having fun, and really putting like there's really passion in that. But then if you look at stuff like Scorpion, you can tell with the runtime and just like how repetitive these songs can become, that it's not exactly for the love of it, and there's ulterior monetary motives. And another example you can see with the Brockhampton Saturation trilogy, where they made 3 albums in 1 year, this like huge group of guys, and you can feel that energy shine through in the music, and knowing that about the band makes the music, I think, sound better, and it makes the whole thing so much cooler and so much more enjoyable. It feels like it's just like that context, I feel like, makes it a lot more interesting and adds value to the music, by adding the additional artist's context to it. Or King Krule with 6 Feet Beneath the Moon, which he made at 18, like knowing that he made it so young, that like beautiful beautifully written album is just unbelievably impressive, and it adds value to that album and makes it, I don't know, to me sound better, because it's like, wow, he's 18 and he made this beautiful piece. Some of these songs he wrote at like 12, 13, some crazy shit, and that's just really amazing. So I feel like that kind of adds context to it too. Like Out Getting Ribs, he made that song when he's like 13 or something, and that's like makes it, I think, a lot cooler. Or you'll have Injury Reserve with how they lost Grogs, and then I feel like that makes By the Time I Get to Phoenix hit so much harder. Like imagine if you listened to By the Time I Get to Phoenix and you didn't know that like they lost like a key member of their band to like heart complications, and like having that knowledge, it makes that album feel so much more impactful and so much more powerful. Like it is already on its own very powerful, but having that knowledge enhances that so highly. And the next point I have here is, okay, it's not really like, it's more talking about the other side of this, of like personal context and adding personal context to music you love, and how it's important to have those connections. Like you shouldn't listen to an album and it should be less like movies, like in that sense, or like books, where it's like telling its own story, its own isolated story. Like sure, you connect it to your own life, but like I feel like music should be fully integrated into your own life, where you're like really like it just kind of intertwines with your memories and all this stuff. And I understand movies can do that, but I feel like not really. And I feel like you should be doing that with music, where it really intertwines with your memories. Like I have like with Quinn's albums, Quinn is an artist who has a lot of music I hold dear to my heart, and like her self-titled album really reminds me of like a few summers ago. I was kind of like really depressed and just kind of in a rut, and I would listen to her stuff her self-titled album all the time, and it would just really it reminds me of that a lot. And I have a like I really care for that album so much more because of that. Or her album Drive by Lullabies, when I was super depressed in the spring and winter, and it's just super mucky out and fucking cloudy, literally like for like 2 months straight. I'd listen to that basically every day. I'd go to school, I'd be tired as shit, I wouldn't have slept, and I'd listen to that, and it just like provides that comfort, like having those memories connected to it. Or then I have like the same thing with some rap songs, where I would be working my job, I'd be at school, and I'd just be tired as shit all the time, and I'd listen to that like at any given time I had, and filling those gaps, and just it brings you this certain comfort when it's like, oh, this is for that. Like it got me through like certain times in my life where I was kind of feeling like really like shit, and it's really important to be able to connect these things to certain points in your life and certain memories and certain people, because it can really add a lot to this music. The sun's coming out. And then lastly, I have Lowertown as my last example for this, like these personal connections. And Lowertown, like their music just makes me like really, really I don't even know, like happy. And it's not exactly for the fact of the music itself, that's obviously a factor, but it's more so for the things I connect it to, like certain people in my life and certain memories and certain points in my life that I was really happy, and all this stuff and things I look forward to and things I've done, and it, like being able to having that music connected to those certain things is what makes it emotionally impact me so much more than the music would alone. And people talk about this objectivity in music versus subjectivity, and there honestly isn't or should not be any objectivity in music, because it unbelievably skews how enjoyable music can be. There's no objective basis. There's always some internal bias to an extent, because it's your own opinion. And I just find that objectivity in music, that whole idea, is just ridiculous, because these connections you make and all this stuff is what makes music so special, and what makes it, at least to me, so pertinent. I don't think I'm using the word pertinent too much, but so like persistent in my life, where it's like, it's because I have all these connections, memories tied to these pieces of music, and that's what makes it so important to me. And I just find it ridiculous that people can try to factor out that part, which is honestly, to me, I think the most important part of music. So yeah, that's all I had to talk about today. I realize the wind is like blowing, so it's making my hair flat on one side. Whatever. Yeah, I hope you guys like that little chat. Let me know any video ideas you have in the comments below. Subscribe. Let me know your thoughts about this video. All that stuff. I like hearing about it. But yeah, I'll be back with another one next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Sam Nation tuning out.